tobit sil okya kay nga studio al tutaw mahal ba kung algoy ngum sang Randy do mo program lagi de malmulma tutaw Randy.
Okay, malung total marbek adro kultun ina EPFM Eco Paradise. Eso la el altime do mesa teme dem la te blang na ka 11 o'clock spy den di el altime en kuk ngani sel tobet sel shogi de lo bengela Ministry of Justice. Era nga sel Ministry of Justice Family Hour. Mga tiang lo bengela alilang yermang en nga oriora Office Vice President de la oriora Ministry of Justice el direk el position niya Special Assistant del Vice President. So mlaktiang sila last el kurab nos modia tel gibel gila gender-based violence GBV el alman de nguk dungura amrigel en Pride Month mga ngigel ko kurab bila telang tingil tel GBV gender-based violence el kuk swal kurab mo cover el ang mang malungit total ko kawe lilay el kurab sa emel ko kurab o gather show
malungit total Randy sulang sorry, I'm going to speak mostly English just because it's
Okay.
my more comfortable language. Like you said, my name is Ilang Yermang, and I'm the Special Assistant to the Vice President and Minister of Justice. Like I talked about on our last show with Korg, who was with the PCAA, part of our programs at the Ministry of Justice is partnerships with community organizations and conducting community outreach activities so they can sort of meet and greet our officers, understand the work that we're doing, and so our officers can sort of build a personal relationship with the community members, understand the who's in their community, the kind of people that are there, what their concerns are, and sort of what their needs are.
So tira di lora el di mongokar ade di el gokora di o siklo lele lo turar adra black al bus. Tokora awalon ng seura abuay el mom dentri ar ade mom dengi ke los pe.
So they can understand what law enforcement tactics work best in the communities. For instance, if there's a lot of kids in the community, we have outreach on things like anti-vaping, like the new vaping law that came out.
Yeah.
And then there's also, if there's a lot of instances of violence in the community, we have gender-based violence outreach as well, GBV, like you said. One of the things that we really want to emphasize at the Ministry of Justice is that equality. Everybody has the right to be safe from violence, has the right to feel safe in their person, and if, God forbid, you were to become a victim of violence or a crime, no matter who you are, what your identity is, you have the same right as anybody else to see justice done.
So, tilang regardless sa nga niya la al kasakpan niya luasing ndiya ka la specifically protected gila discrimination.
So the Constitution does have an anti-discrimination provision
in the Constitution.
In the Constitution, my working knowledge, there isn't a specific law saying that you are like discrimination is a crime. Say, however, we do have our own rules at the Ministry of Justice that ensure equal protection of all persons under the law. And we also have our specific standard operating procedures, or SOPs, for the different divisions under the BPS. I usually like to end with a quote, but I'm just going to begin with a quote. The chain is only as strong as its weakest link, for if that fails, the chain fails, and the object that it has been holding up falls to the ground. So what that kind of means is, as long as there is a vulnerable person, a marginalized group within our community, unless we can protect them to the best of our ability, our entire community can't be safe.
Sendo marginalized ng Kamkora describe it tila. What's marginalized?
Marginalized is kind of like a group of people that are traditionally, or not traditionally, but historically discriminated against just because of how they look or who they are. For instance, like if you are ethnically not Palawan, some people can be like racist towards you. If you're disabled, if you have a disability, people will have like certain stereotypes. One of the bigger ones here is if you're part of the LGBTQ community, like if you're gay, trans, lesbian, a lot of people have these preconceived notions, and that makes you more susceptible to violence and bullying. And we want to be able to hold up those marginalized groups and make sure that they feel safe, that they are safe, and if and when they do become a victim, the law is enforced to the best of our officers' abilities, like regardless
Are there
of violence.
cases? Nga cases are other affected by that? Or?
So Palau doesn't currently have specific hate crime laws. Like, for instance, it's not, quote unquote, a criminal act to beat me up because I'm a lesbian.
So nga tangar niya amlam kutmok talman landing ndiya ka recorder ngi landiya ka alla alwas se hate crime.
Ooy. But there is a lot of terroristic threatening and terrorism, which can and should cover those crimes. It is always better to have specified crimes, so we can capture those statistics, see what kinds of crimes are on the rise or more perpetuated in what communities. Again, for the community outreach and community policing projects that we have and programs, so we can deliver the kinds of police presence, not enforcement, like not going in and saying, hey, it's curfew, you need to go, but more of, hey, we're here, we understand that this community has more children, and we'll do like a basketball tournament with police officers and community members, stuff like that. Like,
so that's part of the whole training, the police officers
and building that relationship with the community. Yeah. You mentioned something in the very beginning that Al-June, internationally, Ngora recognized as Pride Month. And when you say Pride, we're talking about the LGBTQ community. And even though we don't have those laws, like I mentioned, hate laws, we do have the gender mainstreaming policies, and I believe that has been enacted in all the government facilities anyway.
Ako dasang representer niya Director Eunice
I say.
El director sa Health Summit.
Oh, that's right.
I say presenter niya kasi so say the gender mainstreaming sing ngakura talang tingilan what do we expect from that?
So it's really on how we're to interact with each other in workspaces mostly. It's how us as national government, specifically myself as the Ministry of Justice, how we're to communicate with one another within the ministry, to make sure that there's no discrimination, to make sure there's no gender-based violence or sexual harassment or any kind of harassment, honestly, in the workplace, and to sort of provide those protections and recourse for victims of that as well.
Something that tarakurak lol mesang tukura gender tegi del mo ko gender mainstreaming akplol mla mesal di misadra maas malubet redil and akura mo feeling adakal clow understanding gidra gender itself. Tial tokoil gender. Ang Ministry of Justice ang understand gender and how it applies to the community.
So I think, thank you. That's a really good question. I think, like everybody else, we are still learning. I am very proud to report that as we're producing these SOPs, the standard operating procedures that I mentioned, we're trying to make sure that we apply all of those principles. Anti-discrimination. We use gender neutral language instead of he or she. Use they, them. And then we do have indicators in our data collection for the diverse identities. One policy that we do have that I'm particularly proud of is at the jail. Proud of the jail, okay. But when we do intake inmates, we house them according to their identity. So if there is a trans woman, she will be housed with the women.
With the women.
So she's protected, right? If we expose her to the men, there's there's a chance
I've
of
always
violence.
wondered about that. So have women characteristics kung housing in mortal general house, but now tayo them explaining na say you house them according to their identity.
Their identity. So it's not like we just mess up gonna have more feminine characters and be like, okay, go with the women. It's more of, we have an intake form, we do the interview, and we ask where they're more comfortable.
And then you make the judgment.
And we make the judgment.
So
of course. There's, well, the thing I was to Palau are really small.
Yeah.
So we do sort of, we have the family contacts. We have their background as well, as long as what they're saying tracks. Where they're housed is how they identify.
So another thing, ako mesra emojel masada gender-based violence. Madirak el MOS, Ministry of State, masada gender mainstreaming. Maikagid a lot of gender issues. And most of the time, the masada issues in the lower government. How closely are you working with organizations like Bango and Laib and organizations experts
Right. So again, good questions, very pointed. We, like I sort of talked about our previous show last week. One of the very important parts of the MOJ is to have those civil partners to be able to bridge that gap between the national government and the communities. A lot of times, community members, just everybody that's like day-to-day, like hanging out or whatever, is sort of intimidated to come straight to especially the police.
Yeah.
Even though the police are your friends, we're there to protect you, serve you. A lot of people kind of equate that with getting arrested, going to jail, and it's really intimidating. So we do have outreach partners with organizations such as Bango, the Bella organization of non-governmental organizations. They're sort of like a umbrella org for all the different community-based organizations. And we do have, we are planning to do more specified outreach. A lot of it is training. Like I said, we're learning. One of the things we are doing is creating a gender-based violence SOP within the Ministry of Justice to be able to train our officers, to sort of examine their own biases, like the actual officer, and if they're going out into the community, getting a call, if they find somebody that's say disabled, right? They're maybe in
Has special needs.
yeah, has special maybe has a psychosocial disability. How do they handle that victim with the kind of care and sensitivity? If they, for instance,
So it's like a desensitization training, basically.
sort of, yeah. We need to make sure that our officers understand the different kinds of vulnerable groups, all the different kinds of people that they'll come in contact with, and make sure that they're able to handle it in a neutral, unbiased, and equal way, and so that we can make sure that we ensure justice for all.
Wow. All right. And Lilay, I think that's a lot of great
Thank you, Jeff.
information. And
Thank
it's
you.
good to see that the Ministry of Justice is really moving forward with gender in mind.
Yeah, I'm very proud that we have all of our procedures that are coming into place with gender in mind.
And we're so happy that the Vice President is also really initiating a lot of these
Oh yes,
pushes,
definitely.
yeah.
She's a great supporter of equal rights for all, no matter who you are. Yeah, all identities.
All right. And then so sumukurangan niya ako na last sa amin kurak mo eh. And I think
No, I just want to thank you for the opportunity to come and hash out a lot of these details. I'm very happy to return and get into like a little bit more, especially if anyone has any questions.
so sumun sa dal kura contact GBV ang kura sa kura information gila GBV gender based violence ang ngaray contact let's reach out to mal so mang labulis ang obisa vice
So, I would say specifically for gender-based violence, we don't have the expertise. We're still creating our SOPs. Our lines are always open for any questions. Generally, that's 488-3198. That's the Office of the Vice President and Minister of Justice. Our lines are always open. I've been talking about community outreach and not focusing on the violence part, but I do have to say, if you're in a bad situation, if you're a victim of violence, if you're in danger, 911 always for emergencies. And then I guess currently for GVV specifically, if you have questions about that, I think those are really best answered by Human Services at the Ministry of Health and Human Services, and they do have a hotline which is 775 VOCA.
VOCA.
Yeah, that's 3622,
All
I
right,
believe. Yeah,
Okay.
that's man 24/7.
Are there any upcoming events for the Ministry of Justice?
That have to do with GVV? Well, we are doing our SOPs, and we're planning training and then community outreach in that. Completely unrelated. We are doing a multi-agency meeting today to discuss how we can present a united front on enforcing the vape ban.
The vape ban.
Yeah, that's a very
Alright.
important thing to protect our children. Investing in our youth, right?
I
That's the
see.
year.
Yeah. All right. So thank you very much, Alila Ngirmang. Kung
Thank
sa
you.
me ko di share kay di kura baby information kasi last talo me kadir kun mit sa a GBV so gamal di mo da alelen kay gidan le information ko pilis kita sa last. So thank you, Alila, and you can find her at the Ministry of Justice and the
488
Office of
yes.
Vice President.
Yes, 488-3198.
All right. And dim nagigit kung at yakura din kadabal M8 family R nagigil nga tiyang awan na guest gid dim no that sa elmegringi.
Not training.
Not training direct. So di do nga sula la Ministry of Justice spied go ahead the closer that show. So lang.
Thank you.
Okay, sige daw mga lila talk show gidra. M8 family R tiang am laringira o nge walurior Thursday. Ang yalu metul gup singil o ngelol melbu idra 2023. Ukmal masulang.